Victoria Beckham and Augustinus Bader have collaborated once again, combining skincare and makeup for their latest launch, the foundation drops. It retails for £104. This is a really hefty price tag, and the PR team did kindly send me 2 shades to try because I wasn't sure between 2. There was no obligation for me to post, and they don't know I'm making this video. My skin is very sensitive at the moment. I'm having an active breakout. It's definitely more textured and scarred here, but I do think that's the perfect time to test these drops. Victoria Beckham herself has talked a lot about how she struggled with her skin, and I really wanted to see how this sits over skin that isn't perfect. So you get 30 mils of product for £104, and it's in this really chic black packaging with the VB logo in blue on the top. Most skin tints, I would say, come in a squeezy style tube. I do think it makes it easier to apply, and it looks luxe whilst being travel friendly. The coverage is described as light but buildable to medium. There are 19 shades in total, and of course it includes Augustinus Bader's patented TFC8 complex. A little brand context, because saying TFC8 might not mean anything to you. So if you're not familiar with Augustinus Bader skincare, it is co-founded by Professor Augustinus Bader, and he's a German biomedical scientist. He's most known for his work in regenerative medicine. And when it comes to the skincare, I think they're most known for the products, the Rich Cream, and that does include this TFC8 complex. So I've loved and used the Rich Cream several times over the years, but I use that so sparingly because it is very expensive, and I use it most when my skin is feeling irritated and it needs calming down. It's really good at soothing the skin. So TFC8 as a complex, it's inspired by 30 years of research, and it basically uses natural amino acids, vitamins and peptides, which are naturally found within the body to help support skin renewal. I hope I haven't made that confusing, but essentially the skincare helps regenerate the skin, and they've put that complex, what's in the skincare, within the makeup, which is pretty revolutionary and also just not what you see other brands do when it comes to makeup. And this is not the first time VB and AB have collaborated. They did a serum, an illuminator, a concealer, and so now they've got a foundation. The concealer was my favorite of their collaborations so far, so it'll be interesting to see if I like the foundation as much, especially when using them both together. A little bit on the claims, because they have done a small internal study. It involved 33 people, so it's not a lot, but at least they did the clinical trials. Like, not many brands are doing that because they are expensive, frankly. The brand claims off the back of the study is that you see improved moisturization, better elasticity, and then also reduced fine lines after 6 weeks. I haven't had the products for 6 weeks yet to really test that out. All I can really comment on is how it feels and looks, but I am intrigued to see that with regular use it can actually improve your skin, or at least that's what they're claiming. So the shades are really interesting. They're numbered from 0 to 18. There's actually 19 in total, so it's a little bit confusing with one being called 0, but it goes from lightest to darkest. I did use the shade finder quiz, but at least on the UK website it keeps defaulting to the concealer quiz. I'm not sure why it was doing that, but I was finding it hard to actually get to the quiz for the foundation. In the end, I ended up guessing. I sent the PR 2 options that I thought I might be, and I'm actually glad they sent me both rather than just one of the 2, because the one I thought I would be the most actually ended up being the one that wasn't for me. I'll try and put on screen what my most common foundation shades are, because their shade quiz isn't the best. I think it does need a little bit more work so you understand what shade is going to work for you. In the UK, you cannot return makeup once you've opened it. So I think it's really important to have that nailed for people when they're looking to buy a foundation. We need to know exactly what that is, because at £104 is not coming back once we spent it. So I guessed that maybe 8 or 9 would be great for me, just based off the model pictures and the description of the shades. I'm usually a medium, I'm usually a warm. It depends how orange the warm runs. I usually prefer a yellow undertone. So 8 is described as a medium with neutral warm undertones, and 9 is described as a medium with golden undertones. My face is kind of more pinky. There's yellow undertones, there's olive undertones in there. It's kind of bizarre to explain because it feels like it's everything, whereas my neck is more yellow, strongly yellow. Generally I tend to match to my neck, because if I go for my face it looks really strange. And what I was finding is shade 8 is definitely more of a pinky undertone, and it didn't look too bad on my face, but in comparison to my neck it looked strange. Whereas 9, which is a lot more yellow, looks great against my neck, so I felt like I just preferred that shade in general. So that is the one I'm wearing today. The formula is very thin. You do have to give it a shake, and you can hear the little ball rattling around in there. And when it comes to application, I've mostly been applying with my fingers. So I tried it for the first time yesterday, applied it with my fingers, filmed this process just so you can see exactly how it applies. I do think in general fingertips work better for skin tints. With the other side, I actually use the Victoria Beckham brush. I think it's number 12, and it's really densely packed. It's really nice for buffing things out. They actually sent it for the new blushes that they launched, but I really liked using it for foundation. I have actually been applying a lot of foundations with it since they sent it. I feel like my fingertips gave me slightly more payoff because the brush does absorb a little bit. And when it comes to the texture, it does feel like skincare. It feels very nice on the skin. It's very comfortable. It does even out some redness really nicely. It's actually more coverage than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be super sheer, and the first application is quite light, but you can build it up fairly easily to a medium. I do actually agree with what they said. The sheen is beautiful. It's very luminous feeling. I think it looks gorgeous, and I just really like how light it is on the skin because it's not greasy. There's a lot of products I've tried recently which have a beautiful sheen, but they sort of slide and slip around. This does have a little bit of tack to it, so it sits on the skin a lot nicer than some other products that I've tried. It doesn't seem to sink into lines too badly, but I did notice some creasing around my eyes. I in general have to avoid putting too much product around my eyes because it does tend to crease no matter what product it is. So I have oily combination skin. I wore the product all day yesterday because I really wanted to see how I felt about it before I sat down and chatted, even though this is a first impressions. And what I noticed from all day wear yesterday is that on the areas that I am the oiliest is where I saw the most oil. I didn't use a primer, I didn't set it with powder, and I could tell the areas that I was oily. It was definitely separating a little bit around my nose, or at least I could see the shine. But in the areas that were more normal or a little bit drier, the foundation sat fine. There was no issues with it sort of feeling like and looking a little bit shiny. And I've applied it again today, and I used it this time with their concealer pen, and I also used powder, and I think it's sitting really well. Just something to note if you have oily or combination skin, that you have to do a little bit more to make sure it actually stays on the skin. But overall, I think it looks really natural, really beautiful, a lot better than I was expecting. Sometimes I think brands get carried away with the skincare when they combine makeup and skincare together. I thought it might be a bit too much like a cream, but it has way more coverage and looks way more beautiful on the skin than I was expecting. But that said, it's still medium coverage. So if you have scarring, you have texture, you have redness, it's gonna take it down and dull it and even it out a little bit, but you're still gonna see a little bit of scarring peeping through. You might actually see an emphasis in texture because of the sheeny nature of the product. I think it depends how much powder you're gonna use or if you use a primer. But overall, I am way more impressed with it than I thought it was going to be. And there has been a lot of skin tint launches this year. I think that's just how we're seeing the industry go at the moment. It's still a heavy emphasis on this barely there beauty, this skincare infused makeup, which honestly I'm not mad at, but I do generally prefer to have the coverage and then I make the decision whether I want to dial it down or not. And a product I see people comparing it to a lot is the Eldridge skin tint. Just briefly trying this one on yesterday, I think it's hard to tell because my skin is irritated. At first I felt like Lisa's had more coverage and it was better for oily skin, but then I tried it again today just before I put this one on, and I was like, oh, maybe I don't feel the same. I actually feel like the coverage is maybe quite similar. Part of the issue I have is that my skin is dry and irritated, so it's not behaving how it normally would. Basically, I want to try these two side by side a little bit longer, but I feel like I can tell with the VB one that it's more skincare. The two shades I have are very different. I have T10 in the Eldridge, which is definitely more neutral, and the VB one is more yellow. I do have other shades of this. I have T9, I think, T12 and T13, and T9 is definitely too light. 12 and 13 are definitely too deep. So maybe I need to try 11. I might check the undertones on this one, but this one actually looks really nice on, even though it's definitely more neutral. But I do prefer the warmth and the yellow undertones in this. So sometimes when brands do warmer tones for medium skin tones, I notice that they go really orange really fast, whereas this is like a true yellow undertone. It is literally golden as they describe. So I think I'm just enjoying this shade in particular. But I'll test these out more. This is obviously a fraction of the price of the VB. This is really suited for people that like minimal makeup. They want their skin to look like skin, and it's probably better suited to people that have more normal to dry skin than oily. So as I said already, I tried it again today with a concealer pen and with powder, and I do feel like it performed better on the skin. The concealer actually gives way more coverage than I remember. Maybe it's because I applied more today than I have done previously. They work really well together. The textures are really nice together. I think I would have liked to have seen this have more coverage. I think it gets tricky for brands because obviously if you give it more coverage, then you have to make more shades because they wouldn't have the stretch over different skin tones. But at this price point, I would just want a little bit more just from this product, but it does work really nicely with the concealer. Really great to have the skincare in there, especially because I said my skin is irritated at the moment, and generally if my skin is irritated, that's when I avoid makeup altogether. But say you need to wear makeup, or you feel like you want to wear makeup, you want your skin to look more even, I know already that I can rely on Augustinus Bader's skincare when my skin is irritated. So it's kind of nice to know that I can rely on this as well. I kind of did the same skincare and then put this on top, knowing that it's not gonna give me any issues. So overall, these foundation drops have left a very good first impression. So in terms of the claims about fine lines and elasticity, I would have to try them a lot longer to really see that. It does feel like skincare though. The texture's lightweight, it's breathable, it looks really good on, like it does look absolutely beautiful. But because my skin is oily combination, I don't know how often I'd be reaching for this, because I definitely have to use concealer, I definitely have to set it and do more in general to just make sure it stays on my face. I just don't know if it was something I'd reach for all the time if I want longevity and fuller coverage. At £104, it's definitely a splurge, and it's great for someone that already likes Victoria Beckham beauty, like you love her chic, minimal aesthetic, or you really like Augustinus Bader's skincare. But if you're just after a great skin tint, there are so many different options. I guess it really depends how important having skincare in your makeup is to you. But I'll definitely keep testing them over the next few weeks. There's a new one from Armani, there's a new one from Gucci, and it'll be interesting to see how it also compares to those. What I do want to potentially do is a video comparing all the different ones and which ones actually work better for oily skin. So if you want to see that, let me know. But I'm really curious what you guys think of this launch. Is it worth the hype or just too pricey? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.